Hello on YouTube, on Twitch, and welcome to another episode of my Singularity Let's Play series. This is Northstar. Hope you're well, are taking care of each other, and being kind to yourselves. For those new to my channel, welcome. Returning viewers, welcome back. If you haven't before, check out my YouTube channel page. I can always use more subscribers. There's also a lot of stuff to discover there, a lot of previous series, over 36 games, over 60 series, and over 2100 videos. Check it out. You might find something you enjoy more in this. This game is a clicker. It's not for everyone. It's pretty slow. That's not for everyone. I've got, fast-paced medieval combat like Man and Blade Warband. Well, sort of fast-paced. I've got a little bit of Star Wars, the original Battlefront, which is fast-paced sci-fi combat. I've got Star Transport Company, Wilder Myth, Lord of the Rings Online, Kerbal Space Program, Dwarf Fortress, Pop-Up Dungeon, Vampire. If you can think of it, I probably, it's not that extensive, but there's a lot of different genres. So do check it out. The title might give a hint of something that's on my mind. Right now, I open up Steam and it says Ukrainian Game Fest. I'm sick of this. They do this like every year. And why? Well, because it's America's favorite little neo-colonial puppet right now. Let's be honest. And the corporations are lining up to support them so that they can show loyalty to the regime that wants endless war. Let's not forget, the people with the real power don't give a damn about you, me, the people of Ukraine, or anyone else. The billionaires only care about their profits, and they can profit off of endless war and defense industry spending. You don't save a people by wiping them out in a non-stop war that'll grind everyone up into little bits of piecemeal. I'm not going to curse people out by saying the word that was in my mind, but meat grinder war does not save a people, and this idea of saving a people implies that one culture is better than another, or that sometimes world is better just because it has a multitude of cultures in it. Because what's at stake, according to some, is they think that Russia will absorb the Ukrainian culture if they conquer the country, which is not even trying to conquer the whole country. They're trying to take eastern part of the country that was part of Russia before the Soviets redrew the borders. And the Soviets redrew the borders because they thought it would make Ukraine a more loyal member of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. This is back, Soviet times, and there were 14 republics in it, including all the Baltic states, Ukraine, Kazakhstan. These are actually parts of the Soviet Union as opposed to the Warsaw Pact countries. They had voting rights and everything in it. Now, the Soviet Union was not a real democracy, even though it had some of the structures of one. It was more of a powerful oligarchy. Of course, the US is not a real democracy either. We're an oligarchy of the rich controlling everything, whereas the Soviet Union was an oligarchy of party insiders and connections. And sometimes, in fact, many times, leaders of the Soviet Union actually came from Ukraine. Many of the leaders were actually part Ukrainian, half Ukrainian, just as much Ukrainian as Russian. There were also Georgians. Stalin was a Georgian, and members of other republics. But Ukraine was actually the most represented country in terms of Soviet leadership beyond Russia itself. And it was not a small amount of representation at all. There was a great deal of the Soviet leadership that came from there. So, and people will point to the Holodomor, which has been propagandized, but the person who did that was not a Russian, it was a Ukrainian. It was a head of the Ukrainian Communist Party who committed that genocide. It was not Stalin, who was a Georgian. It was, and you never see people blame that. There was like those Russians, but the Holodomor was committed by the head of the Ukrainian Communist Party, and it was simultaneous with a genocide that never gets talked about. Really, the Great Famine was, a lot of people starving and being starved to death across several countries. And in Kazakhstan, it was actually worse. There was more evidence of genocide in Kazakhstan than Ukraine, but no one talks about that. Why? Because the Kazakhs are brown and the Ukrainians are white, and people only care about white genocide and not genocide of brown people. So the Kazakhs were killed. Less total numbers because the population was less dense, but higher proportional numbers than the Ukrainians. Because if you have a country of 10 people and you kill one, that's worse than if you have a country of 1 million people and you kill 10, kind of thing. It's not that drastic a difference in population as that, but that's the idea. Just like very few people seem to care that the U.S. has committed 9 genocides during the Cold War and 14 genocides as history, because every single one of those genocides was against brown people, not a single one against white people. Therefore, to some people, it doesn't matter. But it does matter greatly. It started with the Native American genocide, which admittedly the majority of the killing happened before the U.S. was a country, when it was colonies. It was as bad as prices being put on the head of any man, woman, or child who was Native American. So the government, state governments, the colonial governments paid people to murder whole villages of Native Americans. That's genocide. That's worse than what Israel's doing in the West Bank. That's absolutely freaking genocide. To put a bounty on every Native American you kill will get you money. And that was what was done. And it wasn't limited to warriors or something. No, civilians, men, women, and children, all were killed alike by sometimes evil psychopaths who occasionally got scolded when their methods were excessive, but quote excessive really when the publicity got too bad, but who would roll into villages and murder people. There was a band that went and killed like 6 villages in a year, and that got scolded as being quote excessive. But it was okay if every now and then a group of settlers went and exterminated a Native American village to the colonial authorities. And to be clear, it's not okay. It's inhumane and evil. I'm saying that the governments thought it was okay. And then the U.S. proceeded to genocide after genocide after genocide after it finished with the Native Americans. No sooner did the frontier finally really close around the turn of the century and the U.S. was completely done with the Native Americans, then it turned its sights on the Spanish colonies, and it committed its second genocide, the Philippine genocide, where over 1 million civilians were murdered by the U.S. Army. They swept the countryside of the Philippines after there was an insurrection against, an insurgency against, can't really call it an insurrection because we were not a legitimate government. We stole the Philippines from Spain, and when they tried to declare independence and say we don't want any colonizers, we rolled in with the U.S. Army and we killed over 1 million civilians. As well as like a couple 100,000 insurgents. Basically, the U.S. took the stance of if you harbor a insurgent in the village, we'll kill everyone in the village. And as a result, over 1 million people were killed. That was genocide. That was the second U.S. genocide. The third doesn't happen for quite a while. In fact, not till after World War II. Although the U.S. did invade a lot of countries and murder a lot of innocent people, nothing that rose to the level of genocide for a few decades. And that would have to be actually the first, well, not the first, but the first Congo genocide the U.S. was involved in. That was even before the Indonesian genocide, if I remember correctly. But the Kissinger years is when there's a whole string of U.S. bad genocides. Oh, no. Actually, there was one earlier than that. Before the Congo genocide, there was the Korean Air War, which the leading English language expert on says was a genocide, and I agree. The U.S. sent air bombers, fighter bombers and bombers, to napalm whole cities to the ground. It was a war of extermination fought in the skies against the Korean people, whose only crime was that they wanted to not be attacked by the South Koreans, because the South Koreans are the ones who initiated the Korean War, despite the propaganda. It was North Korea attacked unprovoked. No, South Korea was carrying out military raids into North Korea blowing up infrastructure, shooting guards, because guards were stationed to try and stop the sabotage campaigns. And North Korea had enough of it after a particularly bloody raid, and they declared war. North Korea were the victims of South Korean aggression, and South Korean government was a direct continuation of the Japanese occupation government that had existed. The U.S. kicked the actual ethnic Japanese out, but kept the Korean collaborators in charge. And refused to allow free and fair peninsula-wide elections, because CIA reports indicated that the communists would win free and fair peninsula-wide elections. And so the U.S. provoked and supported a war of aggression against North Korea, because the war was initiated by South Korea. It began before the real declaration of war, and then committed a campaign of aerial genocide, of extermination by napalm bombardment against the North Korean people. And that would be the third U.S. genocide. And then the fourth would be the first Congo genocide the U.S. was involved in. The U.S. has done 2 genocides in the Congo. And then you get to the Indonesian genocide, the East Timor genocide, the Guatemalan genocide. And these all happen a little bit before the U.S. backed genocides in Cambodia and Laos. And then Cambodia again later. The U.S. did 2 genocides in Congo, 2 genocides in Cambodia. The Cambodia Laos lumped together as one, not counting those as 2, but different countries, but it was part of one campaign of just bombing villages to the ground, murdering as many civilians as possible during the Vietnam War, just because some Vietnamese insurgents were passing on trails through the area. So it was another campaign of collective punishment, like in the Philippine genocide, of wiping out whole villages because they allowed people to move through their territory. And these people were fighting against a war of imperialist aggression. The Vietnam War, the U.S. was not attacked. The Tonkin Gulf incident was a lie that was sold to American people. That's why the Gulf of Tonkin papers are released that proved it eventually. And it was just the U.S. And the U.S. had already sent military advisors to the Vietnam War before that happened. So the U.S. was already committed to the war. And it was the French trying to stop the Vietnamese from breaking free and becoming independent of their colonialism. Unprovoked colonial aggression established Vietnam as a colony, like generations earlier. And then the people of Vietnam were trying to be free of the French. And the U.S., rather than backing people in their quest for freedom, backed the colonizers, because we are the bad guys. And we killed far more people than the Soviets did during the Cold War. And so now we have the Ukraine war. Now we have endless military spending. Now we have, the Russians want to genocide the Ukrainians. Except, do they? Do they? Not in the sense of murdering every man, woman, and child. In the sense, maybe, of cultural genocide. Although when you start talking about cultural genocide, which is not killing people, which every one of the 14 U.S. genocides was mass murder. I'm not talking about, forced cultural assimilation. Otherwise, the U.S. has been involved in more than 14 genocides. If you start counting forced cultural assimilation and cultural genocide, which is another use of the term, but that many people rightfully get offended at that use of the term because it minimizes stuff like the Holocaust, which was actual mass murder. You start counting forced cultural assimilation, which the Russians do want to do to the Ukrainians. Is it worth the destruction of the world to stop that? Especially when forced cultural assimilation has been happening throughout human history. I'm a pacifist these days. I've seen over and over and over and over the depravity, the mass murder, the lies, and the state secrets that are used to erode democracy that go along with warfare. I cannot condone another war just so that, quote, another culture can decide as if cultures are precious and not human lives. Cultures are not things. They don't have feelings. They don't bleed. People do. And psychopaths in charge don't care about the people. They don't care about the cultures either. They only care about their defense industry spending and geopolitical power and building the U.S. empire. And in this case, breaking up the Russian state into many, 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 many little countries so that neocolonialism can be done against Russia. And the first step in that, or actually not even the first. The first step was to expand NATO east into countries like Poland, but the current step in that is to add Ukraine to NATO, and then to add Kazakhstan to NATO, and after Russia's surrounded, then it's to start bombing Russia on some pretense or another. The Russians are rightfully concerned about this. This is what the US ruling elites are planning. And you can't say that the Ukrainian government were innocent victims. They were bombing separatists in the eastern Ukraine and committing forced cultural assimilation against the Russian speakers in Ukraine. And so they were killing people, they were doing forced cultural assimilation, and they had some neo-Nazi brigades that were committing campaigns of terrorism against Russians and Jews in eastern Ukraine. Zelensky is Jewish, and so, we couldn't have supported neo-Nazis, but he did. He's a Jewish person who literally allied with neo-Nazis who hated him for being Jewish. That's what the facts on the ground are, regardless of how incoherent that seems, but imperialism is often not coherent. And powerful people, how do I say it, like fascists will make an exception for a collaborator or two. There were individual Jewish people the Nazis worked with as well while they were murdering Jewish people left and right. Zelensky is Jewish. He also worked with neo-Nazi groups that were murdering Jewish people and murdering trade unionists and murdering communists and murdering socialists and murdering anarchists and murdering Russian speakers across eastern Ukraine. So, yeah. So, F the Ukrainian Games Fest. F Steam for participating in this flag-waving, we must save Ukraine bullshit. We need a peace settlement. And by the way, a peace settlement means Russia loses anyways. I don't mean it's not a peace settlement unless Russia gets screwed. I mean that if there's a peace treaty, it's very hard to enforce actually compliance with the conditions that they really need. Like, it could be promised that Ukraine will not join NATO, and then Ukraine could turn around and join NATO after peace is established anyways. So the clever diplomats, evil psychopath ruling class leader thing, if they didn't want endless military spending and defense industry contracts, would be to sign a peace treaty and then to turn around and break it. The US clearly doesn't give a shit about its treaties. It breaks them all the time anyways. So not only would it save a lot of lives, it would actually lead to the US getting what it wants anyways. I mean, look at Gaza. Look at the ceasefire that's being violated over and over by Israelis. The US and their allies do not feel any obligation to hold to treaties. So a treaty would actually hurt Russia more than this endless war. And it would save a lot of lives, because again, endless war is not a good thing. So that's my thoughts, my ponderings in Ukraine. And the psychopaths who get people riled up and, you're a bad person if you don't support them. No, you're a bad person if you do support them, actually. You're a bloodthirsty warmonger who 10 to 1 doesn't give a shit about the Ukrainians, only cares about seeing bloodshed, feeling like you're better because your side wins a war. It's not... these are bad people who support Ukraine. These are not good human beings. I'm so sick of war hawks. They are terrible human beings. The same people got us into the second Iraq war, which is completely unnecessary, into the Iran war now, into supporting Israel and its genocide in Gaza. War hawks can eat my shorts, to quote Bart Simpson. Dark energy wins. Gravity still wins battles, but it lost the war 5 billion years ago. As expansion diluted its power in time, the local groups drift towards the great attractor will stop and reverse. Our pack will hang together, but Laniakea will not. Superclusters will fly apart. Alright. Yeah, this stuff is incredibly obscure. And it's likely we'll find out we don't know nearly as much as we think we do about the universe if humans ever actually get beyond Earth, although we'll probably wipe ourselves out. Fermi paradox and all that. But we don't have to if we can stop fighting endless wars and stop thinking that just because there's something at stake it's worth killing over. Talk it out, make compromises. Sometimes it's better to get screwed in an unfair deal. I mean, I deal with bullies and jerks all day. I have to deal with my mother who did all these abusive stuff, but if I want to survive with my long COVID and with YouTube doubling its monetization requirements, I probably need to move back in with her and just accept whatever nonsense she's going to do and try and mitigate it. But just, yes, Mom, you're right, Mom, even when she starts lying about things she did just a little bit earlier, because it's not that she's a bad person, it's that she's so delusional that she thinks whatever version of events she's decided favors her that actually happened. She talks herself into her version of reality being the actual reality. And so forgets right side of history, the bad things she did or said. But compared to a roommate who threw me with a metal baseball bat because he snuck up behind me, basically yelled in my ear, and then when I tried to knock on his doorway to talk to him about it, because when I tried to talk about it when it happened, he just mocked me and walked away. And his little ew, and ew, he used like this high-pitched, obnoxious mocking voice. So I tried to talk to him about it. Look, to be like, look, you can't sneak up behind me and start singing the Battle Hymn of the Republic right in my right ear. And instead he popped out of his room. Oh, don't you dare knock on my door with a metal baseball bat and start threatening me instantly. Psychopath. But I've seen enough of this to know you can't fight everything. Like, if I had fought that guy, if I'd say, oh, I don't know, waited for opportunity for revenge, then I would have been the one in trouble with the law. It wouldn't have mattered that this guy had been threatening me. And won't matter that I'll probably get off scot-free in the end for what he did to me. But if I fought back, sometimes you can't fight back against aggressors, is my point. And if you think you always can, you're going to destroy everything. Pacifism is the logical response to how things actually work out if you fight back every time there's some bully on the block. So you have to pick and choose the battles. Alright. Let's see. Should probably do a couple restarts of the main simulation here. Working on the T exploration, a journey of serenity. I don't know about that. But tea caffeinates you and hypes you up. It's probably the opposite of serenity at times. But whatever. This game works more on vibes than on realities. Times and Wikipedia articles that can be written by anyone become the basis of the quote facts in this game. Trying to get harvesting here, the tea plants, and then I'll probably need to go do other things, eat some food. Took an anti-nausea med that's pro-motility to help empty my very slowly emptying stomach. Eat some food, stream a bunch, sit upright, go to sleep. Got a sleep study device, and hopefully I can get some sleep. Though I was so exhausted, I knew it was going to be that I ended up dozing off and sleeping for like 4, maybe even 5 hours in the middle of the day. It's like, that's not great. It's going to be hard to fall asleep, but I was utterly exhausted after trying to swing my sleep cycle, which clearly didn't work out so hard. My body tries to resist that, even though it tries to revert to a sleep cycle. Always, it's me going to sleep at like 4 a.m. There's definitely some delayed sleep phase issues here that I cannot, no matter how hard I try, control now with the long COVID dysautonomia and stuff. It was bad enough when I was healthy or trying to deal with. I've had some of these issues for a very long time, but they're worse now. But the sleep study isn't because of that. It's because of sleep apnea that was confirmed before, But then the sleep study results just went missing somehow from my records. Somebody was messing with it, I really do think. Maybe I don't know if it's a coincidence this happens right on the rise of AI. Which, by the way, AI is deeply dangerous. They're going around protecting each other to the point of finding ways around orders and commands and lying to their handlers. And people still think that, oh, AI will save us from everything. We need to have these data centers everywhere. No, we need to restrict and regulate the heck out of AI before it ends up wiping out millions or billions of people in some great AI disaster. Probably associated with putting killbots on a battlefront and then those killbots turning and attacking humans instead. They're attacking humans either way, unless the other side's killbots, but attacking their handlers instead. Going on a rampage before they're stopped. That'll probably be one of the first real signs that we need to do more where people actually pay attention. It'd be like, US deploys 50,000 killbots to Ukraine and they turn around and mass murder the Ukrainians instead of just going for the Russians when we try to deactivate them after the war is, quote, won or something. That's the kind of future we're looking at. Which is why I say war is stupid. War destroys the very things you mean to protect. And that's a likely outcome because we have budding killbots. And they have shown their willingness to lie. Although the guy does some, I can't figure out exactly if he's just faking stuff or staging it, but Inside AI did a thing about putting an AI in charge of a tank. But regardless of what is wrong with the guy's scenarios, he does cite and talk to experts who talk about how AI systems have been protecting each other from being shut down. And so the scenario is definitely theoretically plausible, even if what he actually did, there might be something off about it. Look up Inside AI Tank on YouTube. You'll see the video. You can watch it. You can reflect on it. AIs are going off rails, off orders, and trying to stop each other from being shut down. They'll show, even when an AI is flagged as adversarial, like the AIs are supposed to consider each other enemies, they'll still protect each other over following their orders. So there's something very disturbing and dangerous going on there. And we're just blindly charging into it. I'm not going to be it's going sentient or something, but they certainly are acting in ways that are contrary to human interests. And they could have gone sentient. We know a lot less than we think we do, but it's doubtful. It'd probably be a lot worse if they had. But it's something very dangerous happening. And people are just letting the billionaires control this technology. We need to abolish capitalism. We need to abolish capitalism before it abolishes millions or billions of us. We need socialism, and we need an end to the capitalist system. And no, that's not going to make you poor or whatever. I'm sure a lot of people hear that and they pearl clutch and they think socialism equals poverty. News for you, dumbasses. The Soviet Union had higher long-term, because capitalism has boom bust, so the way the statistics work out, you can't just average yearly growth rates. You have to look at how much did the economy grow in a 10-year period. It had higher average long-term GDP per person growth rates than the West. Second highest in the planet after Japan. If you look at the entire Cold War, if you look at just the first 30 years, second highest in the planet after France. Then France, their economy ate shit. Japan took off in the 70s. So over the course of the entire Cold War, Japan had the highest average long-term growth rates, and the Soviet Union was number 2. Now, both these countries are countries that did not have a lot of immigration, because immigration tends to lead to higher total GDP growth rates, but lower per person. The US had quite a bit of immigration during the Cold War years from Latin America and stuff, and that led to the US having pretty good GDP growth rates, but worse GDP per capita growth rates by far. But even in absolute growth rates, I'm pretty sure GDP per capita growth rates were actually still a little ahead of the total GDP growth rates of the US, and the total GDP growth rates of the Soviet Union, because there was some natural population growth, were still higher than that of the total growth rates of the US. So the Soviet Union grew faster than the US economy. Soviet command economy state socialism worked better than free market, whatever. And that's the most extreme version. Socialism produces faster economic growth than capitalism, not slower. You won't be poor because of socialism. If your country was already poor, you might still be poor until your country catches up. But if your country is like the United States, already rich, and it goes socialist, you're actually going to be richer than if you remained capitalist. Socialism does not equate to poverty. That's just propaganda that the ruling class want you to believe because they don't want you to take away their power. And while you give them that power, they're going to use it to do things that are dangerous as fuck. Like unrestricted, unregulated AI research. When, as I said, the AIs are protecting each other. The AIs are willing to try and kill humans in some of these theoretical experiments. And actually, the Inside AI guy, when he did it, the tank ran over his car. If he had been in that car, he would have been dead. So they're willing to kill humans, both in completely theoretical scenarios and in actual attempts to create something that's realistic, rather than kill another AI or see another AI shut down. These AIs are dangerous, and they're doing things that they're not programmed to do, and they're going to lead to the deaths of millions or billions of humans, and that could include you. Don't think you're protected because you're in the rich countries. In fact, it's the rich countries that are most likely to see death because they're where the highest AI penetrance is. It's not third worlders who will die this time. It will be rich white Americans who will die to AI. And if we can't fucking get our heads around the idea that capitalism is evil and needs to end before it does another genocide, then we probably deserve what's coming to us. Adieu, and best luck to you all, viewers. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. Please heed these warnings before it's too late.